Welcome to Start from the Universe On Call. I am Paul Franz, owner of Franz Games. I run SFU Online, FedCom Online, and Starfleet Warlord. Just a reminder how to join us. We have TalkCast every Thursday night starting 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can either call on the phone to start 605-562-0444. Just follow the directions. Call ID is 17702. Or you can participate on the web. Just go to the TalkShoe website at www.talkshoe.com and search for call ID 17702. Or if you want the best online experience, then you want to go to twitch.tv. Yes, twitch.tv. So go to twitch.tv/SFU On Call, and you'll find us there, and you'll be able to listen to my melodious voice and see my wonderful, dashing good looks. And if you believe that, yeah. But anyway, so, and you can definitely join the chat room and join the wonderful bunch of guys or gals. You never can tell because you don't know. But anyway, and if you need to contact me for any reason, my email address is sfuoncall@gmail.com. That's sfuoncall@gmail.com. Also, if you want to follow me on Twitter or X or whatever they're calling it these days, you also can follow me on SFU On Call, or you can follow me on Paul Franz, PaulFrnz, and of course, Franz Games, FRNZGAMES. That's no T in either one of those last two ones because Franz doesn't have a T. Don't ask me. And of course, the lovely TalkCast gets into podcasts available on iTunes and various other feeds around the net. When it comes to news from ADB this week, actually, it's been relatively quiet. Steve and the rest of them have been recovering from COVID. They recovered enough to ship out product. So people who had their product delayed because they had COVID, those are now out the door. Now, when it comes to found in the online store, we have the F&E Strategic Operations 2022. It's $24.95, and that is a physical book. This is not an ebook. This is a physical book. I'm pretty sure you get the ebook too, but personally, a physical book is always better when it comes to learning things. And so, if I was you, I'd purchase the actual physical book. They have different kind of bindings because it is a print on demand kind of thing. So they've got 4 different ways of doing it. One, you can have with holes or without holes, bound or unbound. So feel free to pick either one of the, any 4 of those possibilities there. And of course, this is newly updated. The description mentions that it was newly updated for 2022. Strategic Operations is an expansion on the Federation Empire and is all about new strategies and new capabilities. So if you're an F&E player and you don't have the updated 2022 version of Strategic Operations, I would recommend that you get it because Lord knows, if for nothing else, you're going to want all of the errata because that means they've gone through it again just to make sure that everything is clean, that there was no mistakes. Of course, any errata, any addendums that they had to fix and they could do in the e-copy, now it's on the hard copy. So please take advantage of the situation and buy it. Online, onto the online tournament, Sapphire Star 14 tournament. The finals are over with Jeff Clark flying the IC, winning over Jack Taylor flying the Great Black Shark. Congratulations to Jeff Clark. When it comes to online client stuff, nothing much happened there these days. Actually, there's a bug that I need to look into, which was a weird one. I will look into it because to me it means either I screwed up or that they have a bad library item or something along those lines, probably. But anyway, moving onward, when it comes to library progress, the updates that Frank gave me, I already posted them last week, and when the FedCom, there has been no updates there. So, with that, that is the news for this week. Welcome to Starfleet Universe On Call. I am Paul France, owner of France Games. I run SFU Online, FedCom Online, and Starfleet Warlord. Just a reminder how to join us. We Duskcast every Thursday night starting at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and you are now with me. Boy, I gotta stop doing that. I started repeating exactly what I do for the news entrance. I don't know. It's just one of those days. Forgive me. Because, of course, it's me. And, of course, with me is Jeff. How you doing, Jeff?
Good evening, everyone.
And also, who deemed to brighten our faces. Hey, Doug.
Hi, how y'all doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How about yourself, man?
Oh, pretty good. It's like amazed at the scammers tonight.
Wow.
But yeah.
Scammers are, what are they up to this time?
Oh my gosh, it's hey, your password needs to be, this is your own IT department for my company that I don't have an extra IT department for. Stuff like that. Just going through
yes.
the stuff for gamers and all that happy stuff.
Ah, okay.
But yeah. How creative can you be? Jackasses. I mean, sorry, scammers.
Yeah, understood.
So,
okay, I thought from what I thought you were talking about lawyers. Okay.
No, that's a worse pejorative.
Oh, don't get me started on lawyers.
I saw
It's
posting
supposed to be a family-friendly
from your lovely partner on Facebook about her hating lawyers. I can understand this since the situation you've gone through, and that's we're not. I'm trying not to egg you on about this being this week in We Hate Lawyers.
That's kind of an ongoing thing, actually. So there you go.
Understood.
Not every single lawyer. I mean, there are exceptions, but not very many of them.
Understood. You've had really poor experience with the lawyers you dealt with.
Sturgeon's law does not just apply to science fiction. Sturgeon's law being that 95% of anything is crap.
Yeah, William Shakespeare is one of his famous quotes comes to mind. That's all. Kill all the lawyers.
No, I think he said, didn't he say bang? I think he was very specific.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think there's a general sentiment among most people that, yeah, that's a good idea.
Understood.
What was that old joke? What is 50,000 lawyers at the bottom of the ocean?
A good start?
It's a nice start. Yeah. Something like that. Yeah.
Understood. I understand the whole idea of the profession of a lawyer because the idea is that they study the law. Therefore, they have an expert in the law. Because my understanding now, correct me if I'm wrong, but at the beginning of time, or the beginning of this country, at the very least, there wasn't lawyers.
Well, if you want a really interesting topic to look into, our legal system is really set up, including the federal side, to not really need lawyers so much. I mean, they're just kind of an additional thing that's grown in like a cancer that they are and infected the legal system, so to speak. But basically, it wasn't really until fairly recently in our history that it became kind of you pretty much need a lawyer versus you can act pro se and expect to have a chance most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of an interesting thing that kind of pops up around the turn of the last century, But there's that, because prior to that, you didn't really need that much in the way of lawyering. So,
right.
But then again, good old vigilante mobs will do that all day long with no lawyer needed. Thank you. I just need a bunch of people, some pitchforks and torches, and we'll be okay.
No comment.
And then,
Back to non-reality.
Yeah, well, back to something a little more pleasant to talk about than lawyers. That is the star of the
I don't think very
universe.
much about anything at the moment.
Well, the focus of this podcast is not supposed to be talking about lawyers.
Thank God.
They need the button on the soundboard, for the Hallelujah chorus for that.
Oh, speaking of topics, I hear that there's a Starfleet Battles tournament coming up in a couple of weeks.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is, and it seems like it's getting announced across multiple platforms.
Yay!
Yep,
Marketing, yay!
agreed. Yeah, because what was it? The SWA Gaming, which is Peter Bakia's group. It begins with S, and I can't remember. And it's not Swanksville. It's near Albany. Damn. Can't remember it. I can't remember.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
Like Stafford's Wargaming Association or something?
Schenectady.
Schenectady, yeah.
That's it. Wargaming Association. They send it out to their mailing list. I'm part of their mailing list. That's how I know. Which is good. And obviously, Barry already picked out his ship, and I mentioned to him that we might have to modify the SSDs that I have, because SSDs that I have are pretty old. Well, when it comes to that one, what I'm definitely going to do is for the Andromedans, I will definitely print out more copies for that. I'll probably print out like 20 copies. I can print out quite a few copies of it, because I've got quite a few of copies of the ships, and most of the ships have not been modified, forever and a half. I think the Tholians was like 2012, so it's been like over 10 years since that one's been modified. But the SSDs I have for the Archaeotholian are over, 10 years old. So that's why I basically it is my what I call my tournament bag, which is I have a bag of tournament. Okay.
Tournament.
I don't know why I'm having problems saying that right now. It's goofy, but anyway, yeah.
Hopefully you're not smelling bread, just cookies.
Yeah.
They'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not allowed to have a stroke,
Needs
Paul.
one hand to roll dice.
That's not.
He only needs one hand to roll dice with. Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, it has all the SSDs, has multiple copies of the EAs. It's both the Andromedan EAs and the regular EAs. Tournament. I think they're my special tournament EAs, because I actually created an EA which is specific for tournaments. In that it had each had the 4 shuttles and on separate lines and had them marked. It got rid of the EW line completely, and gave a line. I think I gave it a line or gave it a couple of lines. I forget which, for you to record your speed changes. So it was a special tournament.
Oh, nice.
One, because there's some things that aren't needed, and also, of course, I think I expanded the number of heavy weapons. Yeah, I got rid of. The original one EA is like A, B, C, D, and then it says E, F, G, H. But right beside it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, because a lot of times when you have weapons of different types, one type is in letters, the other one's in numbers. Like example is drones versus a photon torpedo. But I understand it's not needed on the EA for that, but that just gives you an example. And of course, a number of boards, game boards now, and the counters. I always keep my counters in my rules bag, which I'm not sure if I even have rules in my rules bag. Just because of I don't need my rules. Because
The rules? We don't need no stinking rules.
well, I've got the rules, but they're in electronic form. I might still keep one thing, because I'm not sure they even sell this anymore. Which is
the old module T.
The tournament module.
No, module TR.
Oh, the rule book that was just the module. Yeah.
Right. The Starfleet Battles Tournament Reference.
That would probably be a really good thing to have at the tournament, yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, the great thing about the tournament reference is that it has all the weapons. At least this is before we had added like the Omegas and also the Gendarians and things like that. But it has like the Webcaster. It's got the rules for the Hellbores, and all the heavy weapons are in this book. So as I said, I'm not sure ADB even sells it anymore. My guess is no, because of this is a hard copy, and for the most part, if you want a cheaper one, just get the electronic version. But
if there's enough interest, I'm sure they would typeset it on their print-on-demand machine and spit it out as requested.
That's true.
The technology they have in that office is really impressive, considering how advanced the rest of the place doesn't look.
True. No, I got
Yeah, the tournament reference was one of those interesting ideas that came around at a time when they were looking for new products that didn't require a lot of effort.
Mm-hmm.
And to that end, it was useful. But now that just about everybody has pushed their reference libraries to PDF form, it's not as useful.
Agreed. And this is when you basically, if you got the basic rule book, captains, let's say just got the captain's edition. Some of these things wouldn't be included because of those were in the other modules like C1, C2, and C3.
Right.
Is where like Hellbores and PPDs and things like that, those rules were. But so if you actually were able to buy the tournament reference, you'd have all the weapons. You wouldn't have you wouldn't have the SSDs for that particular empire.
Right.
But just when you're playing a tournament, you don't care. You've got your module T, you got your module TR, and for the most part, you're good. Now, I think module TR would be a great thing for Tim Sheehy to buy, but I swear, he never bought the rules to my knowledge, and I think when he first did it, I think it was just being cheap and figured, I can figure this out, I can figure this out. Later on, I think he basically thought of it as a challenge. I can play SFB without even actually own a copy of the rules. That kind of thing.
Technically, don't really need it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
Oh.
exactly a licensing requirement.
Yeah. But yeah, he, I I feel like you can do it, but here's the thing: you're gonna be learning the rules from the School of Hard Knocks, and that is you're gonna learn the rules along the way. Now, I'm not saying that even if you read the rules and understand the rules, that you will remember the rules. Which is why we, at those moments in time, that's when we pull out your rule books and you look them up. You know, i.e.,
One of those things. It's hard to turn around and reach into the rule book and find a dirty trick if you don't have the rule book to go reaching into to find your dirty trick.
oh, great, or to validate what your strategy is, because you got
Like
to.
like for a number of years, the fun thing to do is on the first impulse of decloaking, the cloaking vessel would dump a weasel out, and when they were fully decloaked, then they would launch plasma and then start decloaking after popping another weasel. And I may have said it in the wrong order, but if you look at the rules, you can never give a direct fire chance to shoot on you without that +2 shift. It costs you 2 shuttles, and but at the same time, it's just one of the little cheesy Romulan tactics that was very popular for a while.
Mhm. Understood, and that can work out quite well. As long as you're not playing in a tournament, because tournament, if you use 2 shuttles, that's half your shuttles,
True.
and it depends upon your opponent too.
Of course, avoided wild weasel comes to a stop, and you can recover it even under tournament rules if you follow the right rules.
Actually, avoided wild weasel doesn't stop; it keeps going. The only time a shuttle stops is a scatter pack. That's when it stops,
That,
launches, and that's
yeah,
it.
you might be right. I'd need to review that, but I have a rule book, so I can review that to make sure my dirty trick works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing that
Yeah, nothing sucks more than finding out your rule won't work at the wrong time.
right, exactly, and that's
Yeah.
that's one of those reasons why, and invariably, it's a good thing to actually own a copy of the rules,
Yeah.
because then you can go back and verify. Okay, will this strategy or tactic work? You know, if you plan to do something crazy like, oh, I'm going to um, run in, I'm going to het, and then I'm going to launch 2 suicide shells at my opponent. Um, can't
Doesn't work very well.
doesn't work very well because you can't do that. You have to wait. I forget whether it's 4 or 8 impulses after a het to actually launch a shuttle.
Well, there's a number of little gotchas like that peppered throughout the rules.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah. And those are the things that play gotcha with people.
Yep.
Yep.
Just out of curiosity, have you had much in the way of actual direct contact saying, hey, I'm going to be there, this is what I want to run from people? Without going into any details of anybody running anything in particular, but have you had any of that going?
No, so far only Barry. What I'm probably gonna need.
Okay.
What I'm probably gonna need to do is actually start contacting people one on one. It's probably the best thing to do. Because I'm assuming you haven't got any pre-registrations that are signed up for the tournament, correct?
None directly. There may be somebody coming that signed up, but I haven't had anything where I saw it specifically where someone said, I want that.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So what I need to start doing is contacting people directly. Whether it's just a personal email or calling them up if I have their phone number. Things like that. I might actually send an email blast with SFU Online to see if there's anyone, that's local, relatively local, i.e., within a 2 hours drive from Harrisburg, to come and play in the tournament.
Quite a few people actually.
Oh,
2 hours, that covers like DC to Philly. That's a pretty good corridor.
From not
Oh.
DC is a little long. Well, actually, I'm not sure if I'm Harrisburg.
From Harrisburg, it's Baltimore's 45 minutes, basically. You could be at Inner Harbor from where I live in Harrisburg, and technically the venue is closer by a bit. So, yeah, I mean, DC's like a 2-hour drive,
Okay.
if that.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, Northern Virginia, we are on that thing. Eric is coming this time. He's coming in from, I think, West Virginia for a different thing. But,
Right.
We have a bunch of people coming that come from all over.
Mm-hmm.
It's not all, like, just from around Harrisburg and, like, one guy from Reading. It's, like, quite a few people come in from different places.
Mm-hmm. Understood.
Like different counties.
Oh, understood.
In the state, as well as a little bit out.
Oh, understood.
I mean, we're not tremendously huge, but we are a very disparate group in, like, geographically speaking.
Mm-hmm.
We have that group that comes up from Gettysburg. So, there you go. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just one of those odd kind of things because of the relative convenience that we are. That I'm just kind of surprised we don't get more people coming in. But then again, we don't have much in the way of an advertising budget, shall we say?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, here's my advertising budget. Hey, come to Gamers. There you go.
If you guys were closer, I probably would.
Yeah, but you're on other half of the country. So.
Well, I mean, I took the time off to go to StratCon, but it was a little closer than that end of Pennsylvania.
Oh, understood. Understood. Yeah. Well, Harrisburg's the middle of Pennsylvania, but yeah.
Yeah. Bottom.
Yeah.
Middle.
I keep forgetting about where things are when it comes to driving distance from Harrisburg versus driving distance from, like, Reading. So.
Well, Pittsburgh's a 3.5-hour drive. It's pretty much a straight shot on the turnpike.
Mm-hmm. Oh, understood. And
Yeah.
and when I think about Pittsburgh, it's a 6-hour drive for me, or well, it's usually
Because you're on the other end of the state from it.
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
But anyhow,
Yeah.
yeah. Some of the.
So did you have a topic for us tonight, Paul?
Well, it was going to be about the tournament, and it's been wavering around that topic, because we already discussed what kind of tournament it's going to be, which is going to be basically a double elimination tournament. If you lose the first round, then you get thrown into the losers bracket, and go from there. Obviously, you can, if you get quote unquote knocked out, you can still play as much as you want, with other people that are also playing Starfleet battles. And if you want to, heck, I'll see what I can bring with me, so that possibly, if people want to play, a different scenario, or possibly even one of the tournament scenarios, just to have fun, just to play SFB with someone live, so you're there. It's like, well, I rarely get an opportunity to actually play someone in person. This would be nice to play another game.
Fair enough.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of. Of Chris in the Twitch chat room is mentioning, says Pennsylvania takes forever to drive through. It's huge. It stretches from
As
the
bad
Atlantic
as that
to,
is,
to Ohio.
as bad as that is, try getting on the Mobius
Where's
Strip.
this one?
That is Interstate 80 between Reno, Nevada, and Salt Lake City. It's like you see the same 4 truck stops with the same terrain around them, and you stop and the truck stops even laid out the same with the shelves in the same places, and you scratch your head going, "Oh my God, I'm in a movie and I don't like it."
It's like Groundhog Day.
Yeah, so
It's like, wait a minute, did I just go through a time warp or something?
yeah, it's a treadmill. It's a treadmill nightmare.
Dang, that's a trip. Chris was mentioning how he drove from
Yeah.
driving I-80 from New York City to Colorado.
That is a haul.
That is a haul, and that's something I might not quite go from New York City, but I might be doing from Pennsylvania to Colorado at some point, because Colorado is where my middle child lives. She lives in Denver. Still doing our best to scratch things together, to get enough money to pay for all the bills and all that kind of thing. But it is what it is. I'm still hoping at some point she'll find a job that she can have a job that she has only one job that can pay all the bills, so that she can have her 8 hours a day of work, and then get off of work and then just relax, that kind of thing. It's a little less stressful environment.
Oh yeah.
Wow, I did not realize that. Damn, that's a bit of traveling. Sheesh.
Yeah.
Jeff, you have a biweekly route of 5,500 miles. Dang.
Yep.
Heck, I use only.
Crazy part about it is that I'm usually in about the same spot geographically to call in from every Thursday night.
Hey, well, you have a good. Obviously, you get good internet at that spot, so you're able to call in, which is always a good thing.
I do look for those spots, yes.
I'm sure everyone does. But yeah, I usually only drive like 10,000 miles a year, not every 2 weeks. But of course, I don't have a job that my job is to drive. So.
Well, since I get paid by the mile and not by the minute.
True. Of course, I don't get paid by the mile or by the minute. I'm salaried, so. It is what it is. But anyway, to get back to actually discussing topics of the SFU nature, instead of talking about traveling on this wide open highways, life is a highway. And if I stop doing that before someone really, it's probably just, someone just heard that and is cringing like you wouldn't believe.
Or you get a copyright strike from Rascal Flats.
Well, I definitely I like their edition that they did for Cars.
Yes.
Which was nice. I forget. Yeah, I think Cars was one of those. When it comes to that, was very interesting in that I bought the album for Cars before I actually was able. They always have the soundtrack available before the actual movies available, like on iTunes. And I bought it, and I still remember playing the soundtrack and picturing the movie in my head as I'm listening to the soundtrack, which is kind of cool. You know,
Yep.
the funny,
That soundtrack was a good one for that.
yeah, agreed. And the funny part is that, of course, Guardians of the Galaxy. What's the one thing that's a lot of the soundtrack is? It's just songs from like the '60s or the '70s or whatever. Um, and I know those songs, but unfortunately, I know them way out of the context of Guardians of the Galaxy first, so I don't get the same thing. You know, that I hear the song, and go, oh, that's this scene in Guardians of the Galaxy. So, oh, you gotta be kidding me.
That's terrible, Chris.
Yeah.
That's like the jerks who, when the sixth Harry Potter book was coming out, would very quickly produced T-shirts that said, "On page number such and such, Dumbledore dies," and was wearing it in queue to pick up the books.
Jerk.
Yes.
Of course, at the same time, my wife is one of those people that if I wasn't there for for some movie, TV shows or movies, she would just go put the fast forward and go zoom. I'm skipping all the because well, she hates the whole idea of the tension, in the movie. Oh, or TV show, she hates that going on. So, and the only reason she'll even watch it all the way through without fast forwarding is if I'm there, because I want that tension. I want that part of it. Though there's some certain movies that, oh Lord have mercy, or TV shows where they get to a place where it's cringy for me, and it's like, why'd you put that in? But
Yeah, Hollywood pacing is something that's very hard to explain.
agreed, and the question is, when it comes to Hollywood, is when will the strikes be over? So to wait and see on that, and see what the fallout of that is. Because I know it'll affect the fall seasons for a lot of the TV shows.
I have a suspicion it's going to run almost to the deadline to start production on the fall season before anything significant happens, and maybe a week or two after that when they finally start serious negotiations from a point of reality.
Mm-hmm. That would not surprise me. But anyhow, get back to maybe maybe we'll keep going on that topic, which is rules that will get you. Some of the obvious ones are, of course, ICPPD, which is, yes, you can overload it. That's fine. Yes, you can close in your opponent. Yeah, that's fine. Just remember that if you ever get range 3, I'm sorry, it no longer fires at your opponent.
Yeah, the myopic zone for the PPD is one of the worst Achilles heels of just about anything in the SFU I've ever read about. I know why it's there, and I know why it's interesting, but at the same time, it's one of those situations where you can almost expect someone to emergency decel and not immediately pop a weasel.
Understood. Yeah, and that is I agree. That's one of the benefits of well, for the opponent when it comes to a PPD, which is that the PPD does these pulses, and if you do emergency decel and wild weasel, then it'll force them to re-roll. So, um, I was,
Bouncing off the turning wall. Yeah, that's a good one too.
yeah.
Breaks tractor locks among other things.
Hmm. Oh yeah, and you got to remember about that because okay, if you run into the tournament wall and you got a tractor attached to your opponent, the tractor doesn't break. But if you're the opponent and you ram your opponent into the wall, then the tractor beam breaks.
Yep.
It is always something you want to remember. It's not like you can do the whole basically ram your opponent against the wall and just kind of drag them along the wall and keep on ramming them against the wall, which would obviously that'd be kind of cool. 5 points, another 5 points, another 5 points, another 5 points. You know, all and it's going to be on the same shield unless the ship turns.
Yeah, but the thing is that if the Gorn's going to sit there and rotate you into the tournament barrier back and forth, he's got to stand up there and go, "Puny God!" Eventually.
True, true. I don't think this is one that's really much of a gotcha. But it's sometimes I think people might forget. And that is things like standard disruptors can't fire at range 0.
Nor can standard photons.
Correct. And of course, then there's when you overload photons or overload disruptors at range 0. What happens when you fire them?
Feedback damage.
Yep. So
This is where photons get a little extra oomph because you can dial a warhead on the photon and not have to burn 2 whole points of reserve power to overload them.
right. But then then there's the question: is how much of an overload do you have? Because it could be like a 9 point damage photon, and it's an overloaded photon. It just only does 9 points instead of 16.
True, but 4 9-point photons at range 0 are still going to hurt.
Yep. Also, another one to remember, which is it's not a gotcha on the rules. It's a gotcha on the chart, which is remember, Hellbores can miss, even if it requires an 11,
Yep.
because you can roll boxcars and you miss. So there's no guarantee that it will hit. Then of course, there's the drones, which is always interesting thing, which is for drones, they are not required to hit, to have it so that they're facing the opponent. They can just turn. They don't have to hit. They can just turn, keep turning and turning and turning and turning. So if it is possible to get in the situation where the drone itself will never hit the opponent, or you can kind of time it to hit the opponent when you want it to. It's a weird thing, but you can do that whether it's a drone or a plasma. Of course, plasma in my mind is a little harder because of the speed involved.
Yeah, most of the funny drone games you play like that have to do with the fact that you're counting on the interleaving interpulses between drone movements.
Well, yeah. In the case of what I just described, that will happen if if you pass by the drone, and the only time you can pass by the drone is if you're moving and the drone doesn't.
Yep.
Drone is moving speed 32, which can happen. There are some fast drones in the tournament. That is less likely to happen. But if speed 20 drone, that can more likely happen. That's true. Well, actually, that's one thing. That's one thing to remember too. That reminds me of which.
The Zinti and the Klingon both have drone upgrade points, and one of the options for their drone upgrade points is super inventory drones. But yes, no drone reloads except for what's in the scatter pack. If you want to unload the scatter pack, and that's at the regular rate, which is 2 spaces of drones per turn.
Right. Agreed. And that's one of those things to keep in mind.
Extra, Chris.
Yeah. Oh, don't get me started on super inventory. Well, I saw that rule on the discussion board. Where they're talking about, oh, can you actually load more drones? Have more drones available than is your capacity to have for reloads, and the answer to that question was no. But you can actually you can get the drones, but they'll be in cargo.
Yep.
So they'll be in cold storage. So in that case, they're not available immediately. It takes a lot longer to get them out of cold storage.
It's not A to B, it's an A to B to C.
Right. Exactly. Which I thought was interesting because I never discussed that one. But yeah, obviously the one thing to remember is that now I don't think many people do that, which is unload the scatter pack and put it into drone storage. Because the only time in my memory that people have ever done that is they do it for loading up if one of the drone racks gets destroyed to reload the drone rack. Now, at the same time, in my mind, that might be not such a good thing just because of one of the reasons why you repair a destroyed drone rack is just to have it so it's destroyed again.
There is that.
I.e.,
usually people I've talked to that have unloaded the scatter pack in the tournament, usually it's a Klingon or a Kzinti fighting a Klingon or a Kzinti. And they've been shooting enough drones back and forth that they're looking for any kind of advantage, and neither of them think the scatter pack is actually going to be an advantage. Also, I've known people that will spend turn 1 taking 2 drones out of the scatter pack, so when the scatter pack blossoms, it's 4 drones, so you don't automatically know whether they're type 1s or not.
Yeah, but in that case, it's more, if they're going to do that, it's more likely is the one drone.
Yeah.
They'll take the one drone out of the scatter pack because that only takes 16 impulses because that's one crew action, and then put that away and then launch the shuttle, and it blossoms into 5. So they have your opponent might think about, oh, did they actually swap out one of the type 1s for type 4, or 2 of the type 1s for type 4 in the scatter pack? Now, here's the one thing that you've always got to have a gotcha with, which is, of course, knowing your opponent. If your opponent always does this thing, then obviously it's not going to work, unless you every once in a while you reverse it up. You actually do a swap, and it is actually one of those things is a type 4.
The other end of the gotcha is deck crew actions are not tied to anything other than the impulse when they start, but drone rack reloads are tied to one whole turn from EA to EOT.
Right.
They don't start on a specific impulse. They have to start with EA.
Mm-hmm.
So that
Very
was something else that came up in that discussion you referenced earlier.
No, I didn't notice that. But yeah, yeah. Because the thing is, during that whole turn that you're reloading the drone rack, you can't fire that drone rack.
That's right.
Which always makes things interesting in that if you try to reload one of the, if you've got a destroyed drone rack and you repair it, and instead of reloading that drone rack, you reload another drone rack, it becomes kind of obvious if you launch any drones, or at least use 2 out of the 4, assuming you have 4 drone racks, 2 of the 4 drone racks, that you don't actually launch a drone from the 3rd rack. So that would then give you pause and go, okay, is the person actually reloading that drone rack? Which you can, if you want to, you can kind of do plainly, not plainly, but you could do it to fake out your opponent in that way, in that help them think that you're reloading that drone rack and you're not.
Yep.
Obviously, one of those rules to remember is, of course, hidden rud raids.
Yeah, that came up this last tournament, and yes, the witch halls have multiple shuttle bays is another thing to keep up with. There's nothing like scaring an opponent when they decide to screw up and run over you at range 0, and you pop out 2 suicide shuttles at the same time.
Ooh.
Don't ask me how I know this.
And the thing is, you have to remember one thing about suicide shuttles. You can create pseudo suicide shuttles.
Yep, doesn't require any time at all.
Bingo. So if they're ID'd, they'll look like they're seeking shuttles, going for you, and the person that you're playing against might assume that they're ones that you charged from the beginning, never need to be destroyed.
Yeah.
And it's not until they're actually blown up will they know what was the actual explosive strength of that suicide shuttle. That's a rule though that is a gotcha.
Yes, it is.
So always keep that in mind, that you do not have to tell your opponent what the strength of a suicide shuttle is if they do an ID.
That's right.
ID of the shuttle. Just say it's a staking shuttle. It's targeted on you. That's it. Now there's one I have not seen done for a long time. One strategy I've not seen done for tactic I haven't seen done for a long time, which is the whole idea of the what is it? Basically, launching a suicide shuttle, having it act as a mine, basically, a capture mine, where
you can launch a suicide shuttle at any valid speed, including speed 0.
Yep.
No, you cannot. In the tournament, you cannot unload a drone rack to load a scatter pack. You cannot make a scatter pack. You just get the one you start with.
Yep. Yes.
Yes, technically it would be a ballistic course for a specific hex.
Yes. And then the orders are that if a if your ship comes within 10 hexes, it launches, or 5 hexes, it launches. Obviously, you want to make sure that the range to the scatter pack is pretty high up, or if it takes a certain amount of damage, then it will also launch. So it's rare that I see people use that tactic, but it's an interesting one. Instead of having the normal one, which is of course at the beginning of the turn, sometime. Sorry, not the beginning of the turn. Beginning of the game, on the first turn, you launch your scatter pack. Sometime. Of course, the reason why you do that, you don't want to fly around with the scatter pack in your shuttle bay, is because of invariably, when you're in the middle of a fight, it makes it really hard to actually separate from your opponent to launch the shuttle so it doesn't get destroyed before it can actually launch the drones that are contained within it, or attached to it. Is the way it's always viewed if you ever looked at some of the pictures / diagrams. Oh yeah, you can do seeking shuttles versus seeking shuttles.
You can even do seeking shuttles against drones. The problem is you've got to actually time it carefully, because if the targeted drone hits the same hex as its target at the same time as the suicide shuttle hits the same hex as the drone, then you're going to eat the drone and the suicide shuttle warhead.
Yep. that's another one of those gotcha rules. You've got to know those rules. That rule really clear, and it's explicit. Yep. If you look at your drone seeking weapon rules, you will see it, and it will describe to you exactly the situations and which one hits what.
Yep.
The thing is,
that's one of those mistakes that you don't really ever need to make twice.
Oh, agreed. Well, my biggest mistake playing the Andromeda is assuming that a shuttle that's launched from a ship was just an admin shuttle. So, Moen's stupid fault.
Well, they call them errors for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
You remember the lesson, not the mistake.
Yeah, and what's frustrating? What was frustrating about it was because of, if I wouldn't have done that, if I wouldn't have overran those stupid shuttles, I would have won the game and gone on to the next round.
So you're saying you snatched defeat from the jaws of victory?
Yep. Because the guy was acting.
That's a very SFB thing, though.
I mean, my opponent was acting really dumb, except for that. And I guess that's why I let my guard down, because, he fired his disruptors at range 9 standard. It's like, okay, fine. You want to fire him? Fine, no problem. He fired him. Okay, fine. I'll keep on coming in. He fires his all his phasers. Oh, okay. He's got nothing to fire at me. Okay, that's why my dumb brain went, well, I'm smarter than him. I want to completely overrun him and just destroy his ship. Yeah. As I run over the shuttles, and he goes, oh, by the way, that's 36 points of damage. And my jaw hits the table. And I go, crap. Because of course, even you know, even though he did not have, he'd fired all his weapons. All those weapons did add up enough in my front panels so that when 36 more points of damage came rushing through it, it did quite a bit of damage to my ship. In which case, I
Yep. Two
flew.
suicide shuttles roughly equals one nuclear space mine, and a lot of blue language.
Oh yeah. Okay. From what I was gonna call suicide shuttles roving nuclear space mines, but no, that's usually reserved for the hydrants fighters. Are called roving nuclear
Yep.
space mines.
Yep.
And that was from Sandy Hemingway. Hemingway. So that's the one thing is that when I got introduced to Starfleet battles, that I got introduced to the old school people. I mean, you know, Sandy Hemingway. Of course, Bill Scheller was one of those people, which actually I got to meet and become friends with. Who else? Of course, Tom. Oh, jeez, who's the Andromeda player? I'm not talking about Anthony Medici. Actually, I did meet. That to me, that was one of my great pleasures as an SFB player, which was actually to talk and shake hands with Anthony Medici. You know,
Yeah, the boogeyman of the Amarillo Design Bureau.
yep. And unfortunately, he's also the guy who convinced ADB that they need to nerf the Andromedan. So,
Yeah, well, they got their revenge.
yeah, well, but I said that was one of my great pleasures in life was actually meeting him. You know, so because you hear about these guys from the beginnings of time when it comes to SFB. When they actually had individual players that were part of a council who would be in charge of each of the empires and make when it comes to weapons and ships and things like that, and trying to keep them balanced and so forth and all that kind of thing. And that's when SFB was really popular early on, and you hear about these names of these players back then, and being like 10 years later, being introduced to one of them, and actually talk to one of them it's an honor and a pleasure because it's like meeting one of your favorite authors. That you or not even it doesn't have to be one of your favorite authors. It's an author that you've read their books and you know their name, and they go, "Oh yeah, oh that's Peter Hamilton over there," and you go, "Whoa," I might not remember, and I've read some of his books, and they're great books. Could I tell you what the books' names were? I could not tell you a single one. But if I got introduced to him, I'd be thrilled beyond belief because he definitely writes. I love the way he writes. But that kind of thing where these people that are they're not A-class stars, that you're just thrilled to meet. Because actually, the funny part is I was listening to this one podcast called Adam Jones, the Adam Jones podcast. Adam Jones was a center fielder for the Orioles, but he got not let go. He didn't get signed. He when his contract was expired, they wanted to come up. They wanted to do the rebuild and didn't want to do it with him. I think that was personally. I wish they wouldn't have done that. I'm not sure if that helped them or hurt them, to be honest. But he played with the Diamondbacks and so forth. He's back. what was I going with this?
Meeting your idols.
Oh yeah. Um, and he's great, and I would love to meet him. And I think, and that's what I was thinking of. Um, and he was talking about how, when he's out with his family, he doesn't want to be rude, but he really doesn't want to play the star, because he's in the public and so forth. He wants to have private time with his family. And it just reminds me of the one time, actually multiple times I remember seeing him, which is I went to this one gym. Actually, it was kind of a gym. It was more of a racquetball court thing, that my work actually paid for. And I go, and actually I play, one of my coworkers, Paul Keck, he also played SFB. And we play together, and we play there. And every once in a while, I look at in the cafe that they have there, and by himself, I'd see Charles Barkley. And there was multiple times I looked at him going, is that really Charles Barkley? And, and I never really bothered him because of, I'm sure he gets bothered all the time by his fans. But also, of course, I'm one of those people that's like, okay, if it's not him, I'm going to be really, really freaking embarrassed that that's not actually Charles Barkley, even though it looks like Charles Barkley. And more and more I think about it, I realized it was Charles Barkley. He was in that cafe area by himself because just to be by himself, which was fine, But I know multiple times I've passed, I look at him and he actually looked back at me, so he knew that I kind of recognized him, but he didn't do anything and I didn't do anything. So, it's one of those things. But anyhow, I think we will end it there. It was nice discussing some of the wonderful rules and wonderful gotchas that you have to be careful out there when you're playing SFB. Jeff, you drive safely as you're heading out there, and I say don't drive so many miles, but that's how you got paid. So
Yeah, I'll be sure to keep dirty side down, nice and safe.
awesome. Well, you have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Okay, bye. Douglas. Hi. Always great that you're there. Please tell me you're there. Crap. Okay. I think I lost Doug. Which wouldn't surprise me at all. The problem is if he did what I think he did. Let me just look at something real quick. Nope, I don't see it there. So. Okay. Anyhow, I don't see anything, the text message from him. I don't see anything when it comes to Messenger. But anyway. Okay. Well, with that, I am Paul Franz, and I bid you a good night.